Excited about our first guest today. Our first guest has an amazing story. It's an unfolding story, and we pray that it will be a blessing and an inspiration to you here in the studio and to everyone watching at home. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Kelle Bryan Gudgeon. Hey, Bill.
Hi. How are you?
Well, Kelle, we are super excited to have you on this program. What we know about your story has inspired so many of us. And it's my prayer, certainly, that as we talk through this interview, that someone at home will find the faith, the courage, and the hope to just continue. So I'm not going to take it for granted that everyone knows anything about you, so let's just start with your start. Tell us about how you got into the entertainment industry.
Oh, well, that's probably not a good story for TVN, right? Well, I was only 2 when I started. So, and I basically was doing a Junior Miss World contest at age 2. Huh? Don't know what I was good at, but I won anyway. Thank you. And that was actually my start into the industry. And then I went to a stage school, and at that point I was discovered. And then I joined a band called
Eternal. Absolutely.
I'm loving this audience.
Absolutely. This is a fantastic audience.
They are fabulous. Thank you.
So, Eternal certainly blew up to where, you know, virtually everyone in this audience and perhaps folks at home know about Eternal. Just tell us a little bit about how big Eternal really was as a group.
Not very good at blowing my own trumpet, so 15 million albums for world tours.
15 million albums.
I'm joking.
15 million albums.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you. You never know where life is going to take you. You know, I started out in the back of a transit van, you know, and singing to people who really didn't want me to be singing, you know. And, you know, I'd get drinks spilled all over me, and we'd get nuts thrown at us, saying, get off, get off. You know, it was not at all a glamorous start. But, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sitting here, and I'm so proud of being able to look back at a catalogue of album sales and, you know, achievements that are, you know, just amazing. I never thought I'd be able to achieve.
Amazing. And at its peak, what sort of crowds were you performing to?
Well, one of the biggest crowds, which was over like 100,000 people, which was basically, we were in South Africa, and when apartheid was abolished, we were the band that were performing, and just to kind of look right, amazing,
wow.
And we're sort of looking out over crowds of thousands and thousands of people, and the banners normally would say, you know, Kelle, I love you, or, you know, Eternal, or whatever, and the banners were like, free at last, you know, and it was just such a significant moment, you know, amazing. Moments like that I'll never forget.
Absolutely amazing. Now, I think most people who perhaps have aspirations for, you know, show business or entertainment would assume that 15 million albums, hundreds of thousands of people, you know, you've made it, and every day is happy and everything is sunshine, and this is as good as it is. But were there some struggles?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been really public about my time in the band because I think it's important to be real. And so, so yeah, I was bullied whilst I was in the band, which was difficult because, you know, I was only 15 when I joined the group, and I was really young, and I was, you know, traveling around the world, and it was amazing, and the things that I was achieving was brilliant, but sort of privately I was really struggling in lots and lots of areas, and so it was you know, really difficult to balance that, and especially if you're not at home and you can kind of come home and see mum and dad and have a hug and everything's better. You know, I was sort of detached from my family, my church family, you know, detached from everything. And so it was a very difficult time.
Yeah, and you were quite young.
Yeah, and very young. Yeah.
Right, right. So you mentioned church and church family. So throughout that time, you had already come to faith in Jesus Christ?
Oh, I wish I had. But God has a plan, so and I always trust Him. But yeah, I didn't actually get saved until I was 21, which is when I had my experience with finding God. But up until that point, it was all so confusing, and I had no, like I was saying, no foundation, so I had nothing to sort of fall back on, kind of thing, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was difficult because I was kind of going through it by myself.
Right, right. So when would you say a personal relationship with Jesus really kicked in for you?
Well, where was I? I had, at the dizzy height of success, I then got a fax sent to my house saying that I was no longer a member of the band. I then had all of my finances frozen because he immediately went into litigations. And then my mum and dad were going through divorce, and I was in an abusive relationship. So pretty quickly from one day to the next, it was totally different.
Yeah.
And then one morning I woke up and I couldn't bend my right index finger.
Wow.
And I just thought, it's probably just, I'd probably slept a bit awkwardly on it maybe at night and it would get better. But that finger then went to a claw, which wouldn't move.
Wow.
And that spread out my body, and then I got ulcers on my face, in my mouth, in my hair, and then my hair started to fall out, and I got to the point where I couldn't move and sort of dress myself or anything like that. And then what was difficult was the diagnosis, because eventually I ended up getting diagnosed with a disease called lupus.
Lupus.
But the diagnosis process was quite long, and so in the meantime, the disease was spiraling out of control, and I had liver and kidney damage.
And you didn't know what was happening?
No, and I didn't know what was happening to me. So every day I'd wake up with a new, kind of problem to deal with.
Wow.